Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different. I want to go over my book recommendations. Now, I strictly listen to audiobooks now because there's just no time to sit down and read an actual book. But I used to be such an avid reader before trucking. I would read at least a few books a month. And then after getting into trucking, I was like, oh, wow, there's literally no time for actual reading. So I got into audiobooks, which is perfect for a long commute. If you even just work an office job and you have to commute on the train or drive in, or if you're going on a road trip, summer is officially here, and a lot of people are going to be traveling. If you're on a train, plane, automobile, my recommendations are pretty much, I've read the audiobooks of them, but all of these books obviously are available in print if you prefer print books, or on your Kindle or whatever, an ebook. But I will tell you that there is a little section at the end that I'll throw in about my favorite voice actors, because they really do kind of make the book sometimes. So let's dive right into this. I will tell you right off the bat though, audiobooks, if you are, a commuter or something and you want an audiobook version of these, they can be very expensive. Even with Audible and stuff, you're still having to pay for them, and then it's I for one don't really go back and read old books or reread or re-listen to old books. Once I've read it, I'm done with it. I want to move on to the next one. So I kind of hate the fact that you'd have to pay for something that you're really never going to use again. So I found through my local library that they offer an online thing where you can actually download the audiobooks for free. So if you have a library near you, go to them and ask them about it. The one that my library uses is the Media Mall Overdrive something or other. I will put it right here. But it is awesome, and at least at my library they have a pretty good selection. You are kind of limited to whatever your personal library has in their catalog. So there are some books that I would really love to read or listen to, but my library just doesn't have them, so I don't really get to. But that's something to look into, and it will save you a ton of money. I personally will go through several books a week usually, especially if they're 8 hours long. I can finish one in a day and start part of another one. And I was doing on Snapchat for a hot minute. I was doing little book reviews at the end of each week, but there was so many sometimes that I was just getting overwhelmed with it. So I kind of just tapered off. But I do want to kind of make this a monthly thing of this is kind of my overall list of everything recently that I have read and remembered, because sometimes I don't even remember it the next day. It's just what was that book even? But if I remember it and I liked it and it stuck with me, I put it on the list. And there's a lot of series books that also help for long commutes, because you can just start one, finish it, start another, finish it. You don't really have to wait because there's already a large variety of books available. But for each month, I do want to take the books that really stuck with me and that I liked and that I enjoyed, and I will screenshot them so that I don't forget them. And then I want to do kind of a roundup of everything that I liked and enjoyed and would recommend for that month. So a little bit of a book club, but not really, because I thought of doing that, but I would finish the book in one day, and then by the end of the month I would never even remember half of the book. So this is my version of it. Let's get right into it. So I've kind of separated this out into authors that have series that I like, and then just authors in general that I am enjoying lately, standalone books that I really enjoyed, and then the voice actors that I really like. So first up, one of the most recent series that I finished up was Kevin Kwan's Crazy Rich Asians. I think that there was so far 3 books in the series. I don't know if there's going to be a 4th, but I enjoyed the first 3. It was Crazy Rich Asians, China Rich Girlfriend, and Rich People Problems, I think. I will list all these things down below so that you can kind of have a reference list of all of them, but that was pretty good. I enjoyed it. James Patterson, he has a lot of standalone books and a lot of series books. I don't love all of his series though. I just could not get into some of them, but The Woman's Murder Club, love the characters, like the stories. Overall, it's a really good read, and it's kind of like a lot of these series are ones where you don't really have to think too much. You can just kind of put it on, and if you miss a few minutes of it here and there, you don't really miss much. So, like that. And his other one, the Alex Cross series, like that one also. Sue Grafton has a series with a lady detective, kind of like, I would compare her to be a little bit more of the dramatic version of Stephanie Plum, if you guys are familiar with them. A lot of these are probably going to be series that you're familiar with, but if you've been on the fence of whether or not you wanted to like get into it and read it and stuff, these are all ones that I recommend. I feel like I'm all over the place today with this. But Kinsey Millhone is Sue Grafton's character of choice, I guess you would say. There are 25 books so far, and it's in the alphabet, and we are up to Y. And I'm really concerned after Z because I want it to go on so badly, but I just feel like she's going to end it after Z, and I don't think I can take that. But what I love about this series especially is that she started writing it in, I think, the 80s, and unlike most authors who would kind of progress their books in terms of contemporary time, she is still in the early 90s, even though we're book 25 right now. So what I love about that is that Kinsey doesn't really have the same modern technology that a lot of people would nowadays to aid in her like private investigator stuff and everything. So I feel like it adds a little bit more something to the story because there's no easy way out. So really, really enjoy that. Probably one of my favorite characters. And she's very sassy, which I like. Also, the voice actress that does her is phenomenal. Next one is Janet Evanovich. Super popular. Most of you probably have heard of her. Most of you probably read her books if you're a reader. But she has 3 series that I really like. Stephanie Plum, of course. That goes in numerical order. She has Night and Moon, which I think kind of has like Curious in the title or something like that for all of them. Something like that. Or Minds. I forget. But that's a pretty good one. I think there's only 3 or 4 of that so far. And then there's the Fox and O'Hare series. There's maybe like 6 or 7 of those right now. Pretty good. Both of the last 2 are like a guy and girl team of like, you know, whatever, crime solvers. I feel like a lot of these are like crime solving type of things. Mary Kay Andrews has the Callahan Garrity series. I think that there was 8 books in that, and it just kind of ended abruptly, and it really kind of broke my heart because I was like, where's the rest of it? But such a good series. So good. And then, of course, Dan Brown, who has the Robert Langdon series. Started out with like, what was that? Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, yada, 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 yada. I just downloaded the newest one. I don't even remember what it's called. But I just downloaded it. I'm going to start it next week. I guess the theme here is that I really like crime solving, but like kind of slightly comedy-ish type of books. And then I like just straight up like thriller, suspense, drama type of books. So, you know, a little bit of dash of like comedy, romance mixed in with like crime, and then just straight up like crime, thriller, yada yada. Authors in general that I just really like, that I will typically download any new book of theirs that I see. Jen Lancaster. She actually, I don't know if she lives up here, but I would assume that she does because she writes about up here. But a lot of her books are based in the Chicagoland area, especially the North Shore, the northwest suburbs and stuff, and that's where I'm at, so I'm familiar with a lot of the places. So I find it kind of interesting to read about the area that I'm at currently. And she's also very sassy in her books, which I really like. Of course, number one, the King, Stephen King. He is my absolute favorite. And I want to eventually read all of his books. I will say that I tried to listen to the Dark Tower series, book 1, 3 different times. I just cannot get over the way that they talk in that book, like in that weird dialect. My brain can't process it. So I don't think that that's for me. But the rest of the books I enjoy, I love. They're some of my favorites. And he disappointed me a little bit with the last one, Sleeping Beauties, because I waited on hold for 5 months to download that book and listen to it. And then I listened to it and I was like, this is it? I mean, it was a little bit too much of like a political undercurrent to it. I didn't really want that. I just wanted like an escape from reality, and it was kind of like, let me shove this down your throat. And I'm like, no, please don't. So I feel like it was a little bit of a letdown, honestly. But I hope that he comes back with something better soon. However, let me just digress off to the side a little bit. If you are interested in Stephen King, you should watch Gerald's Game on Netflix. Such a good interpretation of the book. The book totally like disturbed me a little bit, like the description of the degloving and stuff in the book, but I read that whenever I was like maybe 14 or so, and it was probably a little bit much for me. But the movie version, excellent, and Carla Gugino, whatever it's called, she is amazing in it. So, also, I forgot to write on my little list here, but I listened to a book called Nosferatu. And this was last year sometime. And I was thinking throughout the entire book, like, man, this just seems like a Stephen King novel. Like, it's carbon copy Stephen King. And so then I looked up the author, Joe Hill, after I finished it. And I was like, duh, it's Stephen King's son. So I also enjoy Joe Hill. His are a little bit more weird and kind of meandering, but in a good way. I feel like it's good overall. You just have to be in the right mindset sometimes, because some of them are a little bit of a slow burn. So I enjoy him. Laurie Notaro is one of my favorites also. She started out doing like kind of like semi-nonfiction satire stuff, like kind of stories from her life that I'm sure are like kind of embellished to be more funny. And then she recently it's been like in the past like 10 years, she's gotten into nonfiction, and I totally enjoy that. So she is one of my favorites. She has so many books. They're all excellent. They all like make me laugh so hard. And then Sophie Kinsella, who has the Shopaholic series, which I have not actually finished. I think there's like 3 or 4 that I haven't even read. But I kind of like tapered off. I mean, I feel like that series kind of just took a left turn, and I was just like not interested anymore. But her standalone books I thoroughly enjoy. And the most recent one that I read of hers was 20s Girl. I was so sad whenever that book ended, because I totally expected not to really enjoy it. I just kind of downloaded it as like, well, I can't find anything else right now. And then I was so sad whenever it was over. So thoroughly enjoyed that. Let's move on to standalone books that I have read recently that I really liked. Carousel Court is probably one of the best books that I read in the entirety of last year. And probably this year. There hasn't been one this year that like hit me so much as Carousel Court. And it hit me like that because it is taking place in like, I think 2008 in Southern California, right after the bubble burst, and people are like losing their homes, and it follows this one family in this one neighborhood and their struggles. And it's just so raw and real, and it was just it's just undescribable. It was an amazing read, and it just hit me because I worked in real estate right after the bubble burst. Like right at that moment, I got into foreclosure real estate. And I wasn't like a realtor, but I did the evaluating the property value side of it. And the things that you saw in that job was just mind-blowing. So it was really interesting to see the other perspective of that, like what a family is going through. And it wasn't even so much like, oh, you feel bad for the family. It was kind of like they're both kind of assholes. Like the two main characters are just assholes, but you find yourself kind of rooting for them in the end. And I like that kind of twist to it. Behind Closed Doors, this was excellent. Very, very disturbing, though, to listen to and to read if you have a sensitivity to domestic violence type of stuff. I mean, not to insinuate that people don't, but, you know, if it triggers you, probably not the book for you, but very powerful. Very powerful. Maternity, this was a fun one. A woman fakes her pregnancy at work to get a maternity leave, and it was just hilarious. Landline, I remember this one is by Rainbow Rowell because her name was weird, but amazing book. I really liked it, and the premise of it was just kind of, you know, you've seen it before, but not quite in this way. So I liked that. Multiple Listings, I think this was by Tracy McMillan. Really funny, really good, and kind of one of those like wonky endings where you're like, is that it? And it is it, but then you're kind of okay with it. And then American Housewife Stories, one of the best books that I read last year. It's a compilation of little stories, all kind of going into the minds of different housewives and what they're doing throughout their day. Satire, for sure, but so interesting, and I would highly recommend that one. And then the last standalone one that was really, really good was Nemesis, and I am anxiously awaiting book 2 for that. It was very weird to follow. It was a little bit wonky. I almost kind of feel like the core premises was a lot like Stephen King's Sleeping Beauties, in many ways. So overall, good book though. And then last but not least, let's talk about a few of the voice actors that I love. Anytime that I see them narrating a book that I'm going to download, I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to love this. Because you find that a lot of these people, because of their voice attributes and the way that they manipulate their voice, they tend to do similar types of books each time because their voice just lends themselves to a particular type of book. So sometimes I will just search by the voice actor's name and just pick a book at random from there because I know that I'm just going to like whatever they're putting out. So one of my favorites is Madeline Maybe. I think that she's actually the one that voiced Multiple Listings. And I looked her up and she looks so familiar, and I cannot place where she is from or where I might have seen her, but her voice and her face are so freaking familiar. Lorelei King voices a lot of the Janet Evanovich books. Love her. She is just spot on. She just really gets it. Kathleen McInerney voices a lot of the Mary Kay Andrews books. Love her as well. She just has this way of making you feel like you're best friends with the character. And then the last one was Judy Kay, who, if I'm remembering correctly, she's voiced several of the books on this list. And I think Jen Lancaster's she also does, but excellent. So there's my list of all of the books and series that I've been loving lately in the past year or two, especially for the series, because it's taken me a while to get through all of those. But if you are somebody that needs a book recommendation to add to your commute your summer road trip, whatever it is. There you go. I will go ahead and continue this in slightly different format. Probably a month from now, I will update you on everything that I read and enjoyed the previous month. So there you go, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you got some good recommendations, and I will catch you next time. Bye!